Now that you know all about sequencing and how to visualize a sequence of instructions in a flowchart, it's time to start applying sequencing in Scratch. You'll also learn about adding comments to your code, which is a best practice of a good programmer. So you'll remember from the previous lesson that sequencing is an algorithmic structure where all of the instructions are performed in order and executed one at a time. The example that we used was the process of getting dressed. And we talked about how sometimes it didn't matter what the sequence was, but sometimes it did. And so we just had to decide on the best sequence for our program, and the computer program or the person who was getting dressed would just follow the instructions one at a time and would successfully end up being dressed. And the computer does the same thing. It will follow your instructions one line at a time from the top to the bottom. In Scratch, we've used sequencing quite a bit because it's the way that we do things. We have to place the blocks one after another, and we have to place the blocks in the right order to achieve what we want. And so when you made your animated film in Unit 1, you absolutely used sequencing. Another example would be choreography. Choreographers create a set of instructions for the dancers to follow, one movement at a time, and one after another in the correct order. And of course, if a dancer performs the wrong dance move at the wrong time, it's going to mess up their program. So in this short lesson, we're going to show how sequencing works with motion, and you're actually going to be able to make your sprite dance. When we see our sprite on the screen, even if it's not doing anything, we are seeing output. Okay, that is the output of our program. So that is what the user sees or hears, in the case of, maybe it's the cat meowing or something like that, that shows that the program is doing something. We use the programming blocks in the blue motion tab to change the state of the sprite. And there are lots of different characteristics or properties of the sprite that we can change. We can change the location on the screen. We can change its orientation, whether it's facing left or right or some other direction. And those are probably two of the most common things that we would want to do with our sprite. So a couple of important things to remember about motion blocks. First of all, remember that the motion blocks are relative. When you ask the sprite to move 10 steps, it's going to start wherever it happens to be at the time and move 10 steps. So you could drag the sprite to another location on the screen and then click on your move 10 steps block, and it will do the same thing, exactly what you would expect, move 10 blocks from where it started. In terms of the turning, if we actually wanted our sprite to turn clockwise or counterclockwise, whichever direction the sprite is facing, it is going to turn that way, and your program will still function correctly. What if we didn't want to move 10 steps? And what if we don't want to turn 15 degrees? Well, fortunately for us, in Scratch, anywhere that you see one of these holes or this oval shape, you can change that number. We can type in any number or value that we want to, and this is known as changing the parameters of that particular block. We could actually change these to whatever we want, even negative numbers. The cat has already been taught to change the x coordinate or the y coordinate, depending on what direction your cat is facing, by whatever number is specified. So all you have to worry about is specifying the number. The parameter is any value. You can type a number. If you remember using variables, if you have a variable, you could drag that variable into this hole right here and use that variable. But if you don't put anything in there, it won't work. So the parameter is necessary in this situation to get something to happen. Okay, so you do have to turn and move by some value. In just a second, you will have the opportunity to do an exercise where you recreate a sequence of commands for your cat to follow to produce a song and dance of sorts. And it's going to involve sound and motion. And we've kind of separated these things out before, but they don't necessarily have to be separate. Sequences of blocks that combine the two can be created by switching tabs and selecting the blocks that you want to combine in the order that you want them. And that you can play around with that and see, because we talked about how sometimes, the order doesn't really matter, but sometimes it does. And so try different sequences to see what you can come up with. So at the top, we've got the brown control block, and that is the green flag event. And so our program knows that when someone clicks on the green flag, this is the sequence of instructions to follow. The pink blocks are sound blocks. They create the drum beats for our dance. The blue motion blocks are going to change the sprite's location and orientation, or as we said before, change the state of the sprite. And the purple looks blocks are going to change the sprite's appearance. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in Scratch.